everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do the top 10 books that I've read because I was tagged by this person. Just as an aside, I hope that you all had a great Christmas if you celebrated Christmas, and if not, you had a great day off from work and school and other things, and that Boxing Day was equally as good. So, top 10 was really difficult because I've read a lot of books that are not all in the same genre, that are they all had their merits of their own. So I have some honorable mentions because I feel like they deserve a spot, but they didn't make the top 10, unfortunately. The first one goes to The Scarlet Letter, which, if you ever watched Easy A, you kind of know what it's about. It was something that I was required to read in high school, but for whatever reason, I sat there and I read and I didn't want to stop reading, and I think it was the first classic piece that I actually enjoyed. So that makes it just on that merit alone. The next one is American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I don't know, it was the 10th anniversary edition, and I read his little preface, discussing the 10-year anniversary, and some people apparently really liked it and some people really hated it, and I was one of those people who really dug it. And it was really cool to be able to see that and use it in my master's dissertation, and then also, in addition, read and finish it before the series came out, the television series. So that was really cool. Last one is Harry Potter, specifically Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Of all the books that I read, it was the one that just spoke to me the most. It was the one that I read the most. I kept going back and rereading it and rereading it. And honestly, it's one of the only books that I've actively wanted to reread. So it makes it on that. So we're gonna go backwards because number one spot needs to have a place of honor and stuff like that. So here we go. So number 10 is 1984. And this has multiple reasons why it's in the top 10 spot. It was honestly one of the first books that really made me think about the world, how it applies to, how the literature that was written, however many years ago applies to modern day. And it also scared the ever-living bejesus out of me. So that's number 10. The number 9 spot goes to a book that actually is the first book that really ever made me cry, and that is Kabuki Dancer. Now, if you're not... I have feelings about this book and all of the things that surrounded it when I read it. This was at the same time that I was reading Memoirs of a Geisha, and to give you a little bit of my background, if you couldn't tell by my name, I am Japanese, I'm half Japanese, but more importantly, I've taken Japanese classical dance, Nihonbuyo, for most of my life. I started when I was 5 years old. I got my official stage title when I was 21, and I have so many feelings about Memoirs of a Geisha. However, on the flip side of this, Kabuki Dancer is about the woman who quote unquote founded Japanese dance and the form of kabuki, because at the time, and technically still to this day, kabuki can only be professionally performed by men, and she was a woman who loved to dance. So that was, there's a lot going into that, and honestly, this is not a book for everybody. It doesn't have a very high rating on Goodreads, and it's not written necessarily, or not translated necessarily, in a way that is very compelling. However, if you're interested in lots of drama, if you like translations of Japanese writing, I think you'll enjoy it, or Asian writing in general. Haruki Murakami is very popular nowadays, but the Kabuki Dancer is, I think, something that people need to read for no other reason than to counter Memoirs of a Geisha. There. Number 8 is also another one that made me cry, but this time in public, ugly crying down to I was hiding in the bathroom at my high school, and that is Wolf Cry. I devoured this. I think I read the entire thing in 4 hours or something like that. It was during school, and I shouldn't have done it. I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I wasn't prepared for all the tears and emotion that came. So there's Wolf Cry. Number 7 is one that I was not expecting to read. I was still waiting for all of my books to be shipped from the United States to England, and this was in like the little student apartment, just like sort of out in the common space, and that is The Left Hand of God. I didn't realize what I was getting myself into, and I was pleasantly surprised at how dark and gritty and horrible and awful and awesome this all was. Like within the first chapter, I like to my bones felt cold and alone and just dark and angry, and it was great. It was wonderful. Number 6 is technically one that I have not finished, but I only have like a half an hour left in the audiobook, and it has already made my top 10, and that is Sharp Objects. I I feel so close to these characters, and perhaps it is just because I have a very similar relationship. Perhaps it's because I have a very similar relationship to my mother as the main character, as did her and her mother. So the sort of intergenerational relationship of mothers and daughters really hits home with me, and regardless of everything else, that alone has given me chills and has made my top 10. Now that we're getting into my top 5, they're mostly books that I've read more recently, but honestly, I feel like my reading standards have gotten a lot higher, and while I'm devouring a lot more books, I'm also being really picky about the ones that I do choose to purchase and do choose to listen to / read. I also have to say that it was really tough for me to like rank these because they all gave me so much joy and they were all written so well, but I ultimately had to like nitpick little tiny things and just to rank them. So here we go. Number 5 is Children of Blood and Bone. If you haven't read this already, I highly recommend it. I really highly recommend listening to the audiobook because I sort of assumed, because it was in there, that there are so many words that are not in English, and I felt like for me, listening to someone be able to just very fluidly go through those words, even if they didn't really like mean something like really deep for me, it made a huge difference in the way that I absorbed the material. Number 4 is Fragile Things by Neil Gaiman, and this is a compilation of short works and poetry. Again, this is just another one that like I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. I cried several times. I was inspired to write other things, especially the Scheherazade poem was just so powerful for me as a writer at the time. So go read Fragile Things. Number 3 is also by Neil Gaiman, and that is The Ocean at the End of the Lane. This novella is magical realist goodness all around. Again, I would highly recommend it, and it is wonderful to hear him read it with the audiobook. It's only like 4.5 hours, maybe, something like that, but excellent nonetheless. Okay, so number 2 is Flesh and Fire by Laura Ann Gilman, and this I don't think a lot of people have read, not a lot of people have heard of, and not one that I was really expecting to read or enjoy reading. I picked it up again at my dorm in London, and it was pure magic. The magic in this world is centered in wine and the growing of the grapes, and there is a little bit of like, sensory type, understanding of magic, but ultimately there was this wonderful taste that I got, and taste and smell are a couple of those senses that we never get, especially taste, because we don't really taste things so much. So to have the magic centered around that sensory experience was wonderful, and it really made me think about how to incorporate different kinds of magic into my work, even though ultimately I kind of never got around to it. And the number 1 spot is one that broke my heart in all the right ways, and I can't wait for more in this series, if there is more in this series, and that is Crooked Kingdom. A lot of people have praised this book, And I honestly, I almost put Six of Crows in this top 10, but Crooked Kingdom was ultimately just the best ending to this story arc that I could have ever imagined or asked for. It has so many twists and turns that are just unexpected and wonderful. The stakes get ever higher, even though in the first book they've already done this gigantic, this huge, impossible heist. Leigh Bardugo was able to raise the stakes even higher in the second book while making it local and personal and not like an end of the world scenario. It was wonderful. I guess I need to tag some people, but I don't know enough people generally to tag, so I'll tag a couple, like people that I've come across and I've talked to and so on and so forth, so they'll be in the description and I'll poke you, somewhere. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, hit the notification bell, because, I'm trying to upload on a frequent basis or something like that. And I guess I will see you in the next video. Okay, bye!